Aaron Macy was a student in ceramics in the late 90s, and he came here because of his love of ceramics and through a connection, a person named Frank Boyden, he's in the collection here that Doug bought many of his pieces over the years. Um, uh, Frank Boyden recommended that Aaron come here because Aaron was pretty dyslexic, and this is a really good place for students who are have that issue, dyslexia. And so Aaron came here and he fell in love with the place, and he was really sort of a leader in the ceramics program, and everybody looked up to him. He was like this big, gregarious guy, kind of like his father, and you know he really became entranced with wood firing, and NAU is sort of a focal point for wood firing, and we have an outstanding wood fire facility. And Aaron particularly loved the Tozan Monogama, and so he would fire that as much as he possibly could, and would organize all of these things. And doing that is no small undertaking. You need a lot of artwork to fill the kiln, and you need a lot of energy to prepare all the wood and organize the crews that will fire this thing for 5 days. And he did that with a lot of regularity, and decided to go to graduate school in Bowling Green, Ohio, and with John Ballesteri, who's also in the collection here. And sadly, Aaron became ill during his first year of graduate school. And they didn't know what was wrong at first, but after a lot of tests and a lot of exhaustion, he was just completely exhausted, they figured out that he had leukemia. And so Doug was there in Ohio with him when he was in the hospital, and it looked like everything was going to be just fine. And so Doug went home, and he got the call like a day later that Aaron had got pneumonia while he was in the hospital, and he passed away from it. And Doug remained involved with NAU from then on. And you know, there was a big memorial in ceramics for Aaron, and we have a number of things that were constructed on the grounds of ceramics that are in his memory. So I met Doug when I first came here. It was my first summer. It was 20 years ago, and he was walking around the wood kilns, and he'd just come to visit the place that his son loved. And I was in the studio, and one of my students said, "Hey, you know, there's some big guy down at the kilns walking around. I don't know who he is, but he looks kind of upset." And so I went down and met Doug and invited him to come up to the studio and have tea and just check things out. And he did. So from that point on, Doug and I, you know, we became really good friends, and he remained involved with NAU basically until he passed away. He was the Dean's Advisory Council, the ALAC committee, and he chaired that for a lot of years. And so he would come here twice a year. He would come in October and like in April, and we just became really good friends. We would talk about every 3 weeks, and you know, we had this long friendship, and we'd have these wonderful conversations and all this stuff. And he was a real asset to ceramics and helped us with a lot of building projects on the grounds of ceramics, where to put the buildings. Doug was a very prominent landscape architect. I mean, he's in all the textbooks, and really a well-spoken, famous guy who was very creative. And you know, his love of art, I think it was always there, but it was definitely spurned and kind of encouraged by Aaron's love for art. And that's sort of where Doug kind of discovered ceramics, and you know, was just a huge asset to the ceramics program. So both of them have done a great deal for NAU. So, with this collection, um, Doug was a lifelong collector, and in the time that I knew him, he became a very active collector, and his house was just filled with this work. Um, what he wanted to do was figure out what he was going to do with his collection, and also what he was going to do with his estate. And over a lot of conversations, the last 10 years, 5, 10 years of his life, we kind of worked it out that he would leave his collection to NAU, and would be housed here in the museum, and maybe become it would be a teaching collection. And so the idea here is that at some point, hopefully, display cases will be built at various points on campus, and the collection will be rotated out so that everybody can enjoy it, so that this collection has a presence on campus, and it's intended for educational purposes and to inspire people. And in terms of his estate, he left money to take care of the collection and to build display cases. And he also left an incredible amount of money to the ceramics program for our Tozan Kiln Fund, which allows us to do a whole host of different things, visiting artists, purchase different things that we need for the program, and then also for the Aaron Macy Award. And so with the Aaron Macy Award, the focus was on travel, because Doug felt that for students to be able to go out and see the world and to study in different places and have those experiences was essential for them. And so with that fund, we're able to send students to take workshops. We're going to send, I think, 2 students to China in the fall for the fall semester to study ceramics in Jinjijian, which is the porcelain capital of the world. One that stands out to me is actually this one right here. This is Aaron's. Aaron made that when he was a student here, and it stands out to me because we had a piece very much like this in the ceramics studio, and when I arrived here, it was kind of situated on top of these beat up old lockers. And I don't know, I was just really drawn to it, the nails coming through the clay surface. And what he would do is he would make this, and he would put nails through the soft clay surface and fire them, and the nails survived. And so it just had this kind of industrial, yet organic, yet kind of sea urchinish feel to it. And so I really connect with that because I saw it for many years, and I didn't know who made it at first, but I learned very quickly because I met Doug. I ended up sending that particular piece back to the family after Doug passed away because I thought they should have it. And this is a piece that was that Doug had, that Aaron gave to Doug, and was I think it was at the family ranch in Oregon. So yeah, I really connect with that, and there are a number of others. I mean, some of the biggest names in ceramics are represented in this collection. Don Reitz, Peter Volkos, June Kaneko, Patty Warshina, and I was there. I was around when Doug purchased these things and kind of made these deals with galleries. So I kind of connect with those two. The 2D work in this other gallery, James Lavroff, Rick Bartow. There was a focus in the collection too upon artists from the Pacific Northwest, and Doug was really kind of into that idea of supporting the people in his community. around him. He knew these people. He met them. And, I mean, he was probably the best known landscape architect on the West Coast. So, it was easy for him to interface with these people. And so I don't know. I connect with this whole thing.
Hi, I'm Len Trolson. I was an intern with NAU Art Museum in fall 2020, and I will be reading my essays on Rick Bartow, Joe Feddersen, and Lillian Pitt's works. The late Rick Bartow is easily one of the most renowned contemporary Native artists. Philosophical, witty, and expressive, Bartow brought a natural depth to his extensive body of work, which has been part of countless collections and exhibitions. Recognizable for its strong visuals, Bartow's art is typically representational yet dreamlike and surreal. Whimsy played an important role in his works, and Bartow would occasionally add paint to monotype prints or embellish dry point additions to make each wholly unique. Bartow's style has been compared to well-known 20th century expressionists such as Kirchner and Basquiat, but Bartow himself cited the satiric Luiseno artist Fritz Scholder as an influence. Both have a signature gestural style, often incorporating bold colors and unconventional human forms. Additionally, both were of biracial parentage. Bartow, a descendant of the Northern Californian Wyo and Yurok tribes, had a complicated relationship with art from a young age. The adolescent Bartow displayed talent but shied away from any real pursuit, choosing instead to put his creative energy into music. After graduating college, Bartow served at a hospital in Vietnam, playing his guitar for the patients interned there. The experience left him with a deep sense of survivor's guilt, driving him to drug use and eventually artistic expression as a means of coping. None of Bartow's work from this period survives. After beginning his recovery, Bartow chose to commit to art as a full-time pursuit. His career took off in part due to Lillian Pitt and Joe Feddersen, who both introduced him to art circles. In particular, Bartow enjoyed a close friendship with Feddersen, often exchanging musings on art and sharing several exhibit spaces. Pitt also encouraged Bartow to travel abroad to places such as Mexico and Japan. Consistent themes run through Bartow's work: transformation, the natural world, plagues of the mind, but often as personal and meditative elements. Bartow frequently called his art a form of therapy, and even his personal artistic statements were poetic meditations on the act of creating. Throughout his career, Bartow used his work to cope with PTSD, addiction, and cultural trauma, yet also explored joy, nature, and the human spirit in equal measure. Art making was an act Bartow described as necessary and involuntary, both a blessing and a curse. Bartow's cultural roots are interwoven throughout his art, particularly in the human-animal portraits that echo Wyo transformation myths. In his spare time, he sometimes made sacred objects for the elders of his tribe, which required a level of restraint and discipline wholly distinct from his secular art. Both practices, however, continued the legacy of Bartow's unbroken ancestral chain. One of Bartow's favorite artistic concepts was the mystery, the unspoken magic of life that connects all living things, and the principle that informed the name of his final exhibit, Things You Know But Cannot Explain. Bartow's holistic philosophy outlasts him, embodied in the work he left behind. Many of Rick Bartow's works feature the presence of both human and animal figures, often distorting or combining their anatomy in unnatural ways. Coyote and Leonardo's Anatomy 10 displays this motif, as well as Bartow's signature gestural drawing style. Though the faces of the coyote and the human figure remain somewhat distinct, their forms blend in the middle, along with seemingly extraneous body parts. Interestingly, Bartow further blurs lines of anatomy in Coyote and Leonardo's Anatomy 10, including female attributes, despite the human head looking remarkably like a self-portrait. In myths across Indigenous America, the line between human and animal is thin, with animals possessing a sapient intelligence and often forming familial or marital relationships with humans. Animal bodies are equally ambiguous, with their physical features never specified as literal or other. The spiritual continuum of human and animal is an undeniable part of both Bartow's art and heritage. Yet Bartow rarely attempted to reference specific aspects of his culture. Wherever they appear, they are as organic in his artwork as they are in his self. In one way or another, Joe Fedderson's work always seems in constant conversation with the land. A native of Omak, Washington, located in the state's northeast region, Fedderson's art is as intimately connected with his Okanagan Colville heritage as his hometown itself, and is always combining the traditional with the modern. Fedderson began his formal artistic training in college, earning his bachelor's degree in printmaking and exploring other mediums in his master's program. Once a professor at Evergreen State College, Fedderson has since retired to his hometown, drawing inspiration from the heritage that surrounds him. Important though the Colville region is to his work, Fedderson is hardly insular and maintains relationships with native artists from all over the Pacific Northwest. Fedderson is especially close with Rick Bartow, in what gallery owner Charles Freilich, who represents both Fedderson and Bartow as artists, has called the most wonderful competition in friendship. Though differing in artistic philosophy, the two have long shared an intellectual connection. Fedderson also has a working relationship with Lillian Pitt, having contributed to the catalog of her retrospective exhibit. In all forms, Fedderson's art draws from traditional plateau basketry, one of the most essential and recognizable forms of plateau art. Fedderson's works often imitate grass-woven basket designs in mediums such as printmaking or glass, using traditional form with new material and content. Though he has dabbled in narrative work in the past, Fedderson prefers playing with abstract design. Land and landscapes are essential to Fedderson's work. Fedderson often incorporates the urban scenery of his hometown into his designs, which he feels is inseparable from the land and essential to feeling a sense of place. Some of Fedderson's trademarks are his consistent, recognizable motifs of urban icons, such as high-voltage towers, parking lots, and tire tracks. Other motifs are direct references to his cultural heritage, like his miniaturized basket shapes and anthropomorphized animals. However, Fedderson's work also has a distinctly modernist dimension. Reoccurring symbols of the landscape allow him to explore the concept of signs, using signifying practices to interpret and relate to the land. Lillian Pitt is a descendant of Warm Springs, Wasco, and Yakima people, all of whom made their ancestral homes within the Columbia River Gorge. Located on the border between Washington and Oregon, the gorge has a rich cultural history going back at least 10,000 years. One Pitt was isolated from in her formative years. It wasn't until after Pitt took her first ceramics classes in the 1980s and cemented herself as a Native American artist that she sought out knowledge of her own culture. Mentored by Navajo artist R.C. Gorman, an NAU alumnus, as a budding artist, Pitt's work had long contained indigenous themes and inspirations. Feeling that these works lacked the personal connection she wanted, Pitt eventually returned to her hometown to learn of her ancestors' history. The stories Pitt heard from her elders inspired her to continue the richness of her culture in her own. Pre-contact Columbia River art is distinct from that of other Northwest Coast tribes, lacking the monumentalism of totem poles and transformation masks. Pitt incorporates these subtler forms into her own works, especially through her use of Columbian River petroglyphs. One of her most used motifs is that of Shagmal, an important gorge petroglyph believed to embody the spirit of an ancient female chief. However, Pitt does not limit herself to Columbia River forms, having stated that she loves honoring Native culture from all over the Pacific Northwest. Pitt has cast masks since the beginning of her career, inspired by her studies of Northwest Coast and Alaskan art. Her art recognizes the long-lasting relationships between Pacific Northwest tribes, especially in her honoring of trade sites, such as the now-flooded Celilo Falls. In her work, Pitt embodies the rich, interconnected history of the Native Pacific Northwest. In addition to honoring her ancestors, Pitt draws from Native cultures across the continent. She most commonly works in clay, bronze, glass, and mixed media, stating that she finds mixed media the most fun. Her works are often updated takes on ancient forms or entities, such as her numerous shadow spirit figures, which represent the belief that all things in nature have spirits of their own. Many of her projects reflect the close relationship she has with other Native artists, including Joe Feddersen and Rick Bartow. Among her lengthy catalog are a handful of monumental public works, collaborations with other Native artists from a variety of tribes. She has also mentored younger Pacific Northwest artists such as Tomba Villa. In her later years, Pitt has helped create art programs for teens and young people in the Gorge area, teaching them traditional styles and customs while also allowing them the freedom to create without restriction.
Yeah, so my name's Shay O'Neill. I'm a museum staff here at the NAU Art Museum. I'm an art history major and I'm a senior. And what I do here at the museum kind of varies day to day based on what needs to get done or what Ty needs me to do. In the beginning when I was working here, we had just gotten in the Macy Collection, so most of my time was spent in taking that, condition reporting all of those items, catalog imaging them, and accessioning them into our Past Perfect program. Right now, I'm working with our interns and going through the Weiss collection and specifically her books that she had donated to us and checking. Yeah, so for the reunion exhibition, which is the one you see right now, we picked pieces from the Macy Collection by artists that we also had in our permanent collection already. So we combined those artists for this exhibition. And for the contemporary Native American artists in our other exhibition, we really wanted to showcase the Northwest, Pacific Northwest Native Americans. And putting all their pieces together, you can see that they have worked together and influenced each other. I know one of our artists over there, Labrador, he has this printing institution, the Crow Shadow Institution, which is the only professional printmaker on a reservation. And a lot of the other artists that are also in that exhibition have come there and done workshops and printed with him. And I know him and another artist, Bartow, have worked together and collaborated on an art piece. Yeah, so it is my goal to eventually become a museum curator, and I really think this introduction to the museum world is very important and will be very helpful for me later in life when I'm trying to get those jobs and curate museums. So I think this is a very good opportunity for students to start learning the museum field if that's what they want to work in. Yeah, so over the summer, we had just gotten in the Macy Collection, so we spent pretty much all summer unpacking that and kind of intaking those. And the process is very slow. We take each item one by one and we assess all the possible damage that might be done to it, and we record that, take pictures of it, write it down, and then we take catalog images of it, and then we accession it and put it into our Past Perfect program. And then we put that item in storage after we tag it, and then we move on to the next one. So it took quite a while, but it's very important to take into consideration each and every object. I loved just going through all of the art and just seeing all the different kinds of art that we were getting into our collection. It was very exciting for me to just see all the different kind of art that Macy has collected over the years. I really like Paula Rice's Lazarus pieces, which are the ones right here. And I also really like Tip Tolan's Child with Albinism, which was another piece that we had gotten in our Macy collection. It's like an oversized head bust portrait of an African child with albinism, and it's just so realistic and honestly fascinating to look at. I've really been enjoying the contemporary Native American artists. We've already had a bunch of them in our collection because of our location, and we have such a big Native American community, and I just really like the contemporary Native American art that's happening right now. And I get to see more of those pieces with the Macy collection as well. Yeah, so like I said, like working in a museum is really what I want to do. So it has really opened my eyes to all the different aspects and perspectives of running a museum and setting up an exhibition. And just things like that. So I think it has really helped me understand kind of the museum field more, and has just made me want to go into the field even more.
Okay. I'm Sabrina Ortiz, and I'm a collections intern at the Northern Arizona Art Museum. I'm studying anthropology with an emphasis in archaeology, and then a minor in museum studies and history. So usually I will be filing data from the records that we have here, or recently we've been working on doing object condition reports for some of the Weiss Collection's books. I really love being hands-on with the books right now. I enjoy like being like, physically with them instead of filing, but I like both. My favorite thing is doing object condition reports right now, I would say. Yeah, so right now I'm trying to figure out what I'd like to do within a museum field, but I really like archiving and working with the objects, so I think if I could be like an archivist, that'd be. So I have been filing and organizing all of like the collection, or the Weiss and Sackler collections here at the museum, and basically I'm uploading it into Past Perfect 5, which is the new database we're using, and that's in order to create an online database for future researchers or students to access that information. So I'm just editing all of that. We found this German Bible, which I really like because it has handwritten notes throughout it and in the front cover, and it's very old. It's like from the 1800s, so it has like the ink pot and pen type of writing, which is fantastic because I've never seen that before in real life, so that's probably my favorite. So basically we use like cradles and carefully flip through each page and basically write up any issues that are in the book and like anything that's noteworthy, I guess. Yeah, so before this I had I had basically no experience within like working in a museum, so this internship has helped like show me the background of how a museum works, and then also gave me more clarity on what I want to like pursue as a future career. Yeah, I feel like especially having the museum on campus helps connect the public, and then as well as like students within NAU to art, because I feel like it's kind of hard to get younger people into art sometimes, so I feel like bringing in like local artists like from Flagstaff as well as promoting like the Sackler and Weiss collection is really interesting and helps connect different fields within Flagstaff.
I'm Emily. I'm a collection management intern here. In collections, I've been filing and scanning a lot of the object files for the Weiss collection. And then with all of that data, I've been inputting that into the Past Perfect database. Yeah, I'm double majoring in English and religion, and then I'm also minoring in museum studies. So it's my first kind of opportunity to be like hands-on in the museum. So just having that kind of experience has been really good, and also kind of just showing me the different options that are available to work in a museum. Yeah. I am planning on going into like libraries or museums. So working in like a library or museum archive, I think would be a really cool thing. So with filing and everything, and kind of like scanning and digitizing those different files, that has been really interesting to see the past of a lot of the different objects in the collection. And it's also like working to like finishing that database, having that information more accessible for the museum and for people. So having it be like my first opportunity to work in a museum, I think has been just a good thing to have more experience and more like exposure to the different roles and things. So just kind of giving me a better idea of what I want to do and the options that are out there. With working with the books, one of the things we came across recently was Marguerite Weiss's thesis. So that was really cool to see like a personal part of her own past, and it had like handwritten notes in it, like from her, I think, and like her advisor. So that was really interesting to see.
My name is Sierra Medina, and my major is strategic communication, and my minor is in public relations. I'm also doing an emphasis in advertising. I started off as an intern here, and then I was able to secure employment as museum staff focusing on social media and outreach. I'm getting ready to graduate next month, and I have secured a position at Phoenix Art Museum doing a very similar role in marketing and communications. And I really believe that this position here at NAU Art Museum has helped me to achieve that. And that is a huge part of my career goals overall. I really want to dedicate my education and experience to working in nonprofit museums, because I believe that nonprofit museums bring a lot to its community, and allows for audiences that wouldn't normally get to experience maybe arts and culture or science or whatever that nonprofit is focusing on, and it brings it to them and allows access to them. I think that's so impactful, and so that's exactly why I'd like to continue to work in museums and the museum environment, and specifically in marketing and communications, because I think that's how we can reach out to the community and bring them in overall. So the largest project I've worked on here at the museum is this video. I'm getting ready to graduate, and so it's a great segue into my career after graduation, and I'm really excited to be working on this project, and I think that it will really illustrate what's going on here at NAU Art Museum and what it brings to the interns and the staff and the NAU art community as a whole. So I'm really excited to be doing this and for this opportunity. So my responsibilities include writing copy for the museum, and I started a new segment when I was an intern here called NAU Artist of the Week that focuses on highlighting and spotlighting student artists here at NAU. And so what I do is I write a little biography about them, and we publish it on the museum blog and on all of our social media platforms. And so that just allows us to give a little bit of light to the artists here at NAU, because I think that's exactly what NAU Art Museum is all about, is providing a space for artists and artwork here at NAU. My favorite piece in the collection is probably Platter. It's just dark and a little mysterious and very interesting to look at, It just makes me feel intrigued, and I think that's exactly what art is meant to do, is to make you feel something. I've also really enjoyed having Ty as my supervisor. I think he really cares about his role here, and I think he really cares about educating the interns the best way that he can and giving them those experiences that will help them to achieve their educational or career goals.
The NAU Art Museum is fabulous, and it's been a year since I've been here because of COVID. We've all been just kind of sequestered away and doing our jobs as best we could, but I really enjoy coming to openings here. I think this is a focal point for the community. The shows that have happened here, the things that I've done over the years with conferences I've organized or symposia, having those people's artwork displayed here. Kind of the partnerships that ceramics has done with the museum have been amazing. But I think that the museum really adds an essential focal point to the community and to the university as a whole. It's a place where people can come together and enjoy art and to learn from it and be inspired and come away with new thoughts. And so, yeah, I think the NAU Art Museum is a really, really important place. And I look forward to it being much more open again, when we can get together and have openings and do things here. I also want to say, I bring my classes here a lot, and particularly my Ceramics 4 class, which is sort of professional development and a precursor to the capstone. It's like the last class before that last thing that they do. And we come over and we see whatever is on exhibit here, and also look at the Sackler collection, which is amazing, that we can hold things that were made thousands of years ago and examine them. And the students really love that. So, yeah, I'm a big fan of